Well, good morning and good afternoon, everybody. This is my, I think, 18th HHC conference, but this being HPCC is new for me. I've never made it to a London conference before. I was hoping to make it to Archival this year, but unfortunately that did not work out. So this is the next best thing. For those of you who have been to HHCs recently, you would know that we have had USB drives with the registration every year. Before then, we had CDs, we outgrew that, switched to DVDs, and now we've been having ever-growing USB drives. Since this is not a paid conference, the USB drive is obviously not included by being here, but you will be able to order it, and I've still made one. This talk is going to be very similar to the one I gave last year, just updating what has changed on the drives. So going to what my role is, since there haven't been any new calculators in a while and the user community seems to be shrinking, although the attendance at today's conference is the best I've ever seen, so maybe it's not shrinking. It means I've been spending less time on new things and more time on looking at what we've seen before. Bring back old dead websites, putting together information. As I said in last year's presentation, I'm more of an archivist or historian. I document and organize everything I can find about HP calculators. And then I share it. I have my website, hpcalc.org. I have torrents on there for you to download large amounts of information. And finally, the USB drives from the conferences. The 2020 USB drive is pretty much the same as the 2019 one. The general categories are emulators, ROMs, instruction manuals, photographs, fonts, publications, archives of the discussion forums, CompSys, HP48, HP Museum, that kind of thing, conference proceedings from past years, as well as Jake Schwartz's PPC DVD, which he will be telling you about in the following presentation, Warren Furlow's hp41.org snapshot, my hpcalc.org snapshot, and a lot more. This drive is now twice the size it was last year, 128 gigabytes. So 2017, 2018, we completely filled the 32 gig drive. 2019 doubled it to 64 and still just about filled it. It was 60 and a half gigs at the conference, and I can never leave it alone. It's really a moving target. So people who purchased drives post-conference, as the year went by, got more and more data until at the end it was finally at the full 62 gigabytes usable capacity. So now we're at 128. But amazingly, it's not full, about 80 gigabytes used. So we have some room to grow. The PPC DVD grew by 2.7 gigs, my website by 1.1, HP41 by 2 gigs, Valentin Alvillo's site grew by 130 megabytes. I added a bunch of Palm Top materials, another 1.2, and then put some more videos in, which accounted for most of the remainder. The drive is not complete because it's going to be incorporating all of this year's materials. What you see here, I'm around just under 80 gigabytes, and I expect it to be higher once I add the recording of this conference, plus any presentations that anyone has given will be included as well. Sections of the drive that are unchanged since last year. The font section, it's official HP fonts, also some by Ted Kerber and Luis Vieira. HP Solve newsletter, that was Richard Nelson's publication and published by HP. HP learning modules for a bunch of different calculators. I think Gene Wright had worked on a number of those. Old HP calculator ads, and not just HP, but other brands as well. That was Gene Wright's presentation, I think, last year, over 1,500 images. Photographs, this includes the HP official press photographs of most of the calculators, as well as some photographs I've taken and ones that people have posted online. It has the PPC Notes archive newsletter, PPX Exchanged archive newsletter, ROM dumps of basically every HP calculator we could get a ROM dump for, as well as, for historic interest, a copy of my website from 1997. More parts that are unchanged from last year are some of the other archived websites. hp42s.com, that was Eric Erling. He had made that, and it's no longer online. JacquesLaporte.org. He had really done a very in-depth view of the HP35 And there is still a website for him up, but it's missing a lot of stuff. And by working on archive.org and talking to other people, I was able to get that fully restored a couple of years ago. HHUC.us, that's the archives of all of the HHC conferences that Joe Horn has maintained over the years. And then the greendike.nl, that's recreated instruction manuals mostly from the 70s. And that website went down a couple years ago, and I was able to restore that as well. Finally, the HP Journal, that I think I added last year, all 478 issues of the HP Journal. Some sections that have seen some minor changes since last year. The emulators have been updated. Christoph Hieslink has updated AMU 48, 28, and 42. Tony Nixon, who creates the TNIX emulators, those are under continuous development, and all of his latest ones as of a couple days ago were there too. Claudio Lapili's new RPL is on there. WP31S, 34S Windows emulators are there. The non-pro, which is Eric Smith's collection, and the HP emulators have not changed lately, although one amendment, the Prime emulator, is updated. Then another minor change, my website, I've got it synchronized to the October 6th update. Because this is a larger drive, I'm able to include the entire unzipped contents of everything on there as well. So when you're browsing through the site and you go into an individual file listing, it will show you the contents of the zip file, and then you can click on anything in that zip file to view it directly without having to extract the zip file. It adds a couple gigabytes, but we've got plenty of space. I also have historic old versions of all the files on the site as well. So if you want to see what a program looked like 20 years ago, it's on there as well on the detail pages. Both of those things you can get at anyway over the internet if you're a logged in user in my sites. If you create an account, log in, then you can access the historic files and you can access the zip file contents directly. I just don't allow that for unlogged in users because it would create a lot of unnecessary bandwidth usage if, for example, Google is continuously indexing all those files. And then finally, the HHC conference proceedings will be updated through 2020. That hasn't happened yet just because the conference hasn't finished yet, but the HPCC 2020 materials will be on there. More minor changes, Warren Furlow's hp41.org. 2016 is when he released a torrent that was based on the original DVD. The torrent hasn't been updated since then, but I have been manually updating it ever since to incorporate all of his latest changes. So that's current through as of the other day. Compat System HP48 news groups updated through the end of September, and there have not been any posts since then. Unfortunately, that's dying off. I'm not seeing much activity there at all. I've not changed any of the other archives of news groups and discussion forums. And finally, Jake Schwartz's PPC DVD has been updated to version 2.37, plus I OCR'd all of them as well, so you can search that. There's one more year data file, and he added one more folder for HP materials. He's going to talk all about that once I'm done. The manuals collection has seen some updates. Katie Wasserman has a collection of scanned manuals. There are a few she added there. Book section, again, has a few new books. The basic calculator manuals, that has not changed since last year. Valentin Elvio's site has seen some pretty good updates, so that's synchronized to his latest update from a few days ago. And the Gazette de Pocatier, however you say it, I won't try any harder. That's a French calculator publication that is still going on, and I added their latest issue from last year on that, number 12. There's some bigger changes for the HP manual section. I'll talk more about that later, but I've got a new interface for that to make it easier to browse. And the video section, a number of new videos, either ones that I came across online or found in my storage. The HP Calculator Story, that was one I think that came with the HP35S. I've put that on there now. There's an SMI training video. There's a video with some famous French programmers. I don't know if Cyril is on yet, but there's a very brief section of him saying hi from 97. Floppy Days podcast had several episodes relevant to HP calculators. There are a couple in the 41 with Richard Nelson and Gene Wright, and there's some on the HP 85 and a couple others. So I included those as well. The HHC 2019 conference recordings, which are on YouTube, are on the DVD, on the USB drive now too. 2018 is still on there, and if this recording works, we'll have 2020 on there too. New additions are the Palm Top Paper, also known as HP Portable Paper magazine. I've got 114 PDFs from that I downloaded. And hpmuseum.net is the HP Computer Museum, I think from Australia. And I went through and picked out some relevant brochures from there about HP calculators, mostly from the 70s and 80s. That's another 100-some PDFs. Finally, the super site. I don't know if any of you remember that, but we're running out of calculator material, but I've been finding Palm Top material. And that was a website, I think, maintained by Michael Bell, maybe others as well, but his was the last name on there. And it was collecting all of the software he knew of for the 95LX, 100LX, and 200LX, over 1,000 programs. There are a few archives at that site out there. They all have broken links. So I went through them, combined them, went on archive.org to try to find missing files, went to original author websites when they still have websites up to pull those down. I even emailed a few people asking if I could get the files from them, and I was able to fully recreate all that. So all the material from the old super site is on this drive as well. The biggest new thing now with the manuals collection, in past years, I have had a number of calculator manuals on the USB drive. And something that I've been meaning to do for well over a decade, ever since I got permission from HP to do this, was to host manuals on my website. And I finally got around to it. It was both a matter of waiting for bandwidth to get cheap enough that I could host it, and also taking the time to put it together. One thing I think all of us have encountered over time is that HP's website tends to break. You have a link to something on the page, link to a page on the site, it disappears. Calculators disappear off the site. If you want a manual, you can't always find it. But over the years, HP has published many different manuals for their calculators, even ones that predate their website, on their website. But then they tend to disappear. So I've downloaded them over the years, and I have them all collected. So I have probably close to 350 manuals that I've downloaded from HP's website over the years that anyone can use. And then I've also got the manuals that have been scanned by the community, published on the on various websites, manuals that I've scanned myself. I've gone through ones that were scanned by others. I've disassembled the PDFs, cleaned up all the images, reassembled them, made them into new PDFs with OCR. So these should be the highest quality I have so far. On the other hand, I'm still working on it. I have a fancy scanner for scanning new manuals, and at some point soon I will be making a request if anyone has manuals that they can lend me that I can scan at high quality. If they're spiral bound or comb bound, I can easily disassemble them and scan them perfectly, then reassemble them, send them back to you. If they're perfect bound, I am not going to do a flatbed scan. That takes too long. Quality isn't good enough. So I would then, in that case, be asking permission to cut off the binding of the perfect bound book, scan it, and then I would rebind it as a spiral bound book, which might be better in some ways, but it, of course, would no longer be the intact original. One thing also, Felix Gross has presented several times over the years. He's pestered me about getting it published, and I finally did, and that is his bibliography of calculator literature. He's got a large PDF listing thousands of books about calculators, not just HP, but TI and other brands as well. And that is on this new website as well. Or I should say, will be on this new website. This website will be going live once I finish this talk. So this is brand new. Here's a screenshot of what the site looks like. It's an interactive view. In fact, if I could probably even demo it for you. At the top, you have filters. You can pick which calculator you want to filter by, which language you want to filter by, and what source, whether it's coming from HP or from the community. Hold on right here. I'm going to bring up an example. We need to reshare this. Hold on while I reshare my other window. Okay. So here's the live website. You can go in, you can filter it by language. I pick English. These are all documents that are in English. I've indicated on them the format if it's an original document or it's a colored scan or a grayscale scan or a black and white scan. The ones that say official HP are files that are completely unchanged from what I downloaded from the HP website. Files that say community could be based on an HP scan or an HP file modified by me or things that were scanned by other people. So if we just bring up an example of an HP one, some of the HP ones have not been cropped. So if you look at them, you can see this one's pretty good. But we can go through on the 48, we'll see how long some of these take to download because there's some quite large files in here. Like the advanced users reference in color, this is a couple 100 MB file. But this, for the 48, we have the full thing, and we can do a search once it finishes downloading. Telling it to search, but it's taking a while. Let's pick a smaller one that won't take so long to download. So if we pick up a 55 handbook, search for their math, and there it comes up on math. It's all OCR, and I've got all the pages equal size. So if you view them in a 2-page view, for example, if we go here, it's a little different here in Firefox. Even spreads and zoom to fit. Now it's just like you're reading through the book. It views a little bit better in an actual PDF viewer than in the web browser. Again, going up to the top, let's say we want to find something for a certain model. We can do the drop down. We can pick 17B2. And there's the 17B2 manual. 35S. There's the 35S manual. Go back to all languages. You can see these are all the languages that are available for download. This is a work in progress. We'll be seeing more stuff as time goes on, but I've got something pretty good now. It's over 400 manuals, mostly originally from HP. So if I go back to the presentation. The presentation. Now, how to get the USB drive? You'll be able to order it from my website. It's not up yet. I'm going to give it a couple more days just to make sure I'm caught up on things. One thing that's been causing me a lot of problems lately is making these overlays for the 31S and 34S. I'm trying to get that resolved first before I add anything else, but I think I will try to get this out for pre-order this week. It's going to be $45. $20 of that goes to the HHC committee to fund the future conferences, and the remainder is either covering the cost of the 128 gigabyte drive or my expenses. And shipping will be another $5 to $15. So you can't pre-order it yet, but it will be available for pre-order pretty soon. For those of you who have the 2019 drive, you're not seeing a lot that's different on the 2021. Much of what is different you can get on the web for free anyway. So this isn't meant to make money. This is just because when you have 80 gigabytes of material, it's a lot easier to ship on a USB drive than to download. Although, as I said, most of it is on torrents already or direct downloads. Also, something that I'd mentioned last year, the HHC Videos USB drive, that is videos of all the conferences that Jake had made and that I had made, 256 gigabytes full of videos. There isn't that much interest in this. In fact, this is all also online on videos.hpcalc.org. You can view not all the individual videos, but all of the talks are on there. That's like over 1,000 videos on that website. You can view them there or buy the USB drive, which I have been selling at cost. So that concludes everything that I put together in USB drives. I suppose we have some time for questions if anyone has any questions.
Thanks, Eric. That's great. Amazing piece of work. If anybody wants to ask any questions of Eric, please unmute yourself, and we should be able to take questions for a few minutes.
Hey, Eric, it's Mark Hardman.
Yes.
Could you possibly include the 3 converted pneumatic training videos for the HP95?
I can include anything. If you can point me to a source for it, if there's a YouTube source, I can download them. If there's not a YouTube source, I don't know what format they're in, but I can convert them if they're an optical disc.
No, I had them converted from the original pneumatic tape, so a fairly high expense, but the quality is okay, and it's a very nice historical archive item. I'll point you to where you can download it.
Okay, that would be perfect. I can
I'll send
incorporate
you,
that on the drive.
Thank you.
Are all the participants going to get an email when this drive is available?
Yes, I will make sure. Eric will let me know, won't you, Eric? And I will send an email out to all the attendees. Yeah.
Very good. Thank you.